Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Trader's Mind Chat live show. Today, we will be doing a deep dive into the stock market, taking a look at, well, what are the current headlines saying? What's the current news? How is it affecting the market in general? Is it setting up to move higher or lower? What stocks are leading the way right now? We'll get into all of that. But before we do, if you guys wouldn't mind hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button wherever you're at, whether you are on YouTube or Facebook or ShareVision, wherever you're at, drop a comment down below. Let me know where you're at. Make sure that you hit the like and the subscribe button. That helps out the show. I really appreciate that. And without further ado, let's dive into the market. All right, so talking about headlines, and I pulled up a bunch of news outlets here. So we've got Market Watch, we've got IBD, Investors Business Daily, we've got MSNBC, we've got Fox Business, StockTwits, and we have the indices and a couple of other things that I'm looking at here. So first off, I thought that it would be interesting to start here with Market Watch, and if you're not aware, one of the things that happened was Facebook reported earnings, and if you come over to one spot, right, you come over to Investors Business Daily, you see that Facebook is down over 25% right there, right on the right on the front page. You come over to Market Watch, and here's a nice picture of Mark Zuckerberg, and he looks happy. And you're talking about companies that have forged remarkable achievement over the past decade, and Facebook being one of them. I thought that that's very interesting to see this kind of narrative painted on one news outlet. And IBD isn't even saying like that, painting Facebook or now they're called Meta negatively. It's just showing that it's down a bit here, and that, well, more than a bit, but that's really it. Thought that was very interesting. You come over to MSNBC, you come over to Fox, and it's pretty split between negative headlines here. Things about the Senate. You go to one, well, one's talking about negative against Democrats, the other one's talking negative against Republicans. And well, what I like to do if I am looking for any kind of news, it's to see like, well, what's trending, right? Like start to see like what's trending, and StockTwits is a great place to really see what's trending. Like this is the homepage here, and you can see what the indices are doing, you can see what crypto's doing, and you can see all the different stocks that are trending right over here. And so you can immediately have a sense of, okay, the big, many of the big names are selling off pretty heavily. That's interesting. So the next step that I like to take from having a little bit of that is to see, well, what's happening over here on the major indices. And so we have the 5 major indices. We have the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, the Russell 2000, the New York Stock Exchange, and the Dow. And over here we have the IBD 50, which are the top 50 growth stocks in the market. So yeah, the indices are each pulling back, but each of them had just run into a major resistance level, right? So you're looking at the S&P 500, right? Like, so let's zoom in on this. So yesterday it had approached the 50-day moving average, right? It broke above this orange line here, that's the 100 EMA. It broke above the 21 EMA, that purple line. And yesterday it started to move towards the 50 and it got rejected and it closed on the lows here. And so it's pulling back. But the thing about today's pullback, right? And we'll take a look at this on the other indices too. And I think that this is something that is a major clue to be aware of is look at just this price action here and look at that price action relative to what it was like back here. Well, what difference do you see? And this is significantly tighter price action, less volatile than the price bars back here, right? So that's showing a subtle change in character, right? Well, don't know what tomorrow is going to bring us, but we do have a subtle change in character from the panic that was happening back here to this rally, things turning around, and then this pullback so far happening a bit more gently here on the indices. And you notice too, the volume, right? So far the volume is significantly lower. I find that to be interesting as well. To top it off too, where did price stop? Right, like so price came in today, price fell, but where did it stop? So far, stopped at that green line, the 20 the 10-day moving average. So it's caught in this weird spot between support and resistance. And while if you were somebody that was Johnny on the spot trying to short, like as it was getting over here to nearer to the 50-day moving average, then kudos to you, congrats. But in this neighborhood, you're in this spot where there's more likelihood for chop. Right? Like you're not in a smooth downtrend or something where you're starting to break major levels here. You're caught between two levels of support and resistance. So you're caught between potential support right in this neighborhood, right over here. You also have the 200-day that could start to act as support again if price starts to really widen and get volatile, all bets are off. But at least at this stage, you're caught between potential support right around here, where it's starting to bounce today, and this level and the 50-day moving average for now. So you're in this weird kind of chop zone. So part of the question then becomes, well, what are stocks doing? Right? Well, what are stocks doing? We saw what some stocks are doing over here on StockTwits, right? Like over here, it looks like stocks are getting massacred, right? But that's a small sample size, right? And even if we go to view more and we start to scroll through this, all right, like we can see here too, like that there's really the majority of red. Well, that's 10 ideas here, most active, 10 again, and you're still seeing more stocks moving to the downside. But when you come back out and you start to flip through some of the ideas that are setting up. So what I like to do to find stocks that are setting up, and we spoke a little bit about this yesterday too, I'll go through all the different stocks that I track. Um, I run screens every week. I compile this list here, what I call a universe list. Here, let me make it a little bit bigger for you so you can see some of what's on here. So I'll compile this list. Right now there's a little over 200 names on this list, and each one of these stocks passes various fundamental criteria, various technical criteria. So I'll go through this and see, well, what is moving, what's setting up, and I do that each day. So I'll do that each day, look for what's setting up, and yesterday there was barely anything setting up, right? So uh, there were three that seemed like kind of so-so setups. Let me know what setups you're looking at. Type into the chat. But I saw these three here. I saw Matador. I saw Cushman Wakefield, right? Like all names that you probably never heard of. And this one here, Tech Resources, each of them pulling back and potentially setting up that, but they were all, none of these were, well, what I would consider A-level setups. The one A-level setup that I did find earlier in the week was this here in Bros. Now, Bros has pulled back the past 2 days, but having gotten in down here when it was breaking out and taking some gains, I'm able to just sit with this for now and let the rest of it run. Right? Like yesterday, I had tweeted out it yesterday or the day before. I had tweeted out that something that I learned from Mark Minervini, uh, U.S. investing champion last year, and he also wrote a series of books. If you haven't read those yet, like I highly recommend them. But well, part of what he taught me was take off profits at a multiple of your risk and partial profits, and then let the rest run. So I've been doing that now for years, and that's exactly what I did with this trade here in Bros. I was able to take some profits up here, pretty close to the highs, and now the rest of the position, like half of the position, is just able to work. And the I have profits locked in. My stop is moved up to break even, and if I get stopped out on the rest of the trade, then thank God I took something off. If the trade continues to run higher, then thank God I held on to something, right? And so no matter what you do, it's a win-win, and that's part of the psychology. That's part of the mindset of this. So let's talk a little bit about what stocks are leading right now, or what groups are leading right now. So here's a tool that you could use that's free to figure out what groups, what sectors are leading. It's called finviz.com, right? So you just come over here, finviz.com, and you could click on this button here, groups. So we click on that, and this is going to tell you all the different sectors in the market. And it's going to tell you what the performance is for the day, for the week, for the month, 3 months, 6 months, and year to date. So one day relative performance, that doesn't give us a whole lot of workable information, but coming to week, right? Like we could see what started to rebound and rally on the week, right? So uh, whereas energy has been leading the way for months and months and months, this week things started to change, right? You see breath picking up over the past week, and it wasn't energy leading the way. Energy was the last one down here, right? And even today, if we come back over here, where's energy? Energy is middle of the pack. Like everything's down today, but energy's middle of the pack. Now, over the past week, energy's down at the bottom, and breath is picking up across the board looking at this. So taking that information and overlaying it with the context of, well, you have these major indices here. They rallied pretty damn hard the past week and change, right? And we start to think about, well, how is it consolidating now? What's the price action like now? And you take a look at just this area in here, and you compare that to what it was like, a month and a half ago, and it's significantly different, right? Like this pullback feels quite a bit different than what we were experiencing back here, no? And that's even with your big stocks, like your Facebooks of the world, right? Like, oh my God, like that's just crazy to see Facebook down this much. But well, it's not Facebook, it's Meta. Anyway, um, your Amazons of the world not faring much better. But then you also have some other tech giants, right? Like Apple's still near its highs, rallied off the lows there. You have your Google's. Let's take a look at what Google's doing. Gap up to fresh highs, and so far down on the day, but so far holding that little gap up after earnings. So it's very interesting to see and interesting to try to figure out too. Well, which way is the market heading? Is it uh, heading higher? Is it getting ready to head lower? The answer, I need to go back to this question too. The answer is to be prepared for both directions and to read what the market is doing. So I'm reading this, I'm reading a character change. I'm coming over and looking at the other stuff that I track here, right? Like, so some of you have seen this spreadsheet before. If you haven't, type into the chat, let me know if you're new. I'm seeing some other people hop on the live stream. Welcome, everybody. Get your questions into the chat. Any comments that you have, let me know where you're watching from, and I'll answer all of you. But I have this spreadsheet here, and part of what I'm doing each day is tracking the trend across the indices, across time frames, taking a look at distribution days, so heavier selling in the market. I'm looking at the number of stocks making new highs versus the number of stocks making new lows. Uh, there's major character change in here too, right? Like, so you could even see how I have it color coded. It back here for months at a time, the number of new lows were dramatically outpacing the number of stocks making new highs. That dramatically shifted this week, right? So massive dry up in new lows on Monday, and then on Tuesday and Wednesday, we actually started to see the number of new highs start to outpace the number of stocks making new lows. That's significant as well. Another subtle character change. Just want to be aware of these kinds of changes too, because, well, what could be a very shortable environment might be turning into a chop fest. And what might be a chop fest could be a stock pickers market. And that's how I was able to find uh, this idea from the other day in Bros. Again, not seeing a ton of great setups that I like, but this one was high on my radar. Ticked off almost every box that I looked for and broke out and started to run, and that's why I was able to take it. That was able to enter this and still in this. In fact, right now I have my annotations hidden, but I'll add them here. You can see too, like this is how I mark up charts with quite a bit of stuff here. So Fibonacci levels, anchored VWAP, uh, starting to annotate trend lines, where I'm getting in, where I'm getting out, how much I'm risking, and where my stop is. So having all of that in there, this checked off a lot of boxes. So we'll see what happens for the rest of the week, heading into next week. Part of the big idea too is that we don't need to rush. We don't need to rush. We don't want to rush. The idea isn't to be trading all day, every day. It's to be trading when the conditions are right. It's to be trading when the probabilities, when the odds are most favorable to us. So if that's the case, if we want to trade when the odds are in our favor, then what we want to do is track all this stuff each day, right? Like track what the market's doing each day, and from there assess like what is it favorable to us or is it not favorable to us? What kind of setups are we finding? Are they high quality? Are they low quality? Yesterday and the day before, C-level setups, barely any, right? Like 3 stocks on the focus list out of a potential 200 ideas, like that's nothing, right? That's the market telling me to take a step back and to wait for better opportunities. I'm not just going to sell the stocks that I have right now because the market's not not great, but I'm not going to go back into the market and start buying new ones. Does that make sense? What do you guys think? Well, what are you seeing right now? Well, what questions do you have? Let's do a bit of Q&A. Bit of Q&A. Well, what questions do you have about anything that we spoke about so far? Anything with any of the headlines that we took a look at? The FinViz, the markets, individual stocks. Well, what's on your radar? Type all that stuff into the chat. Let me know that you're alive. Right? Like, so on the live streams that we have on Discord, all the microphones are open, so people are able to just go and open up their microphones and chat with me for a bit. Here, it's hard to tell, yeah, well, what your reaction is. So type something into the chat. Let me know that you're alive. Let me know what questions that you have about any of this stuff. I'll be glad to answer it for you. I'll just grab a quick sip of water here. Yeah, when there's not that many setups on a day, there's not a ton to do. Well, let me rephrase that, because there's always something to do. There's not trades to execute, but there's always our routine to execute. Right? So it's important to have a trading routine. Part of the trading routine that I follow is one, doing the type of analysis that we just did, and really working through that spreadsheet that I showed you guys. Stepping back, taking it all in, and then coming to some kind of a conclusion. Running daily screens, of course, but journaling, right? So keeping everything in my journal. Daily journaling is very important. It can be a game changer for you. If you haven't done journaling already, let me know. I'm happy to talk about journaling. Did a whole big segment with our elite members just the other day. Journaling is key. So doing your journaling practices, running your screens, and your post-analysis. Right, so at the end of each period, right, I prefer reviewing each week at the end of the week. So going back, looking through my notes, finding well, what happened during the week, starting to see what my pattern of thinking was, and if there's some kind of a recurring problem, then that gives me the opportunity to address that. Right, so often we could get caught up in our own thinking that if we're not taking it out of our head and putting it onto paper or into a spreadsheet or a Word doc or wherever, it's easy to get lost in there and to just keep on repeating the same kind of patterns over and over again. Journaling is great. Journaling helps quite a bit with that. Here's a question from Colin. Colin's one of our elite members. Colin says, do you look through the entire universe list every day or screen for certain criteria? Excellent question, Colin. So let me fire up MarketSmith and I'll show you exactly what I do. All right, so here's MarketSmith. And what I'll do with MarketSmith is, let me start with this. So on the weekends, the first thing that I'm doing is I'm going through every single stock on the universe list. When I'm building my trade ideas for the week, right? This list here and the list that we review on the weekends, I'm going through every single stock manually, one at a time, on the universe list. And then I'm looking for what stocks are setting up and potentially actionable right now, and which ones are pretty close where they might set up during the week. All those go onto the trade ideas list. And even from the weekend, 21 stocks, that's a pretty thin list, right? Less than 10% of the universe. So I have this list, and then I'm working with this through the week. But at the end of each day, I'm updating what I'm going to have on the focus list, what I'm going to have on this other list here in the neighborhood. The difference between them is focus list is potentially actionable right now or could break out right now. In the neighborhood is the ones that are getting pretty close, right? So we've got those. Um, so what am I doing each day? What am I screening for? So each day, right? I am running these screens right here. Uh, in this fold, daily screens. So I'm looking at stocks with the relative strength at 52-week highs. I want to see what's leading the market. And I'm glancing through this, right? Like I've got it sorted by sector, so all the stocks are grouped by sector, and I'm able to see that there's a couple of energy stocks in here. There's so fairly there's decent breadth, but there's not a ton of stocks on the screen. So this screen here, relative strength at 52-week highs, it's only on the universe list. So I'm coming in here, I'm looking at this, and I'm flipping through each of these stocks to see, well, are any of them setting up in some kind of a pattern that I trade? And if so, then if it's potentially actionable, I'll throw it onto the focus list. If it's close, then I'll throw it onto the in the neighborhood list. So I'll go through each of those stocks, and I'll run these other screens here. And so something that you might notice too about each of these screens, and by the way, I'll tell you this too, with these volume screens, MarketSmith populates these screens at about 5 o'clock, around 5 o'clock Eastern each day. So that's why right now they're not turning up anything. Um, but I will run each of these screens, and you notice too that each one is pretty damn specific, right? Like relative strength being at 52-week highs, volume being greater than the past 5 days. Like come down here, uh, closing near the daily highs, stocks that are bouncing off the 21-day exponential moving average, etc. There's all these different screens that are looking for very, very, very specific things, and so it's giving me insight into how the stocks that are passing the screen, well, what they're actually doing, what their behavior is. So I run these, and each one will maybe give me a dozen or so stocks, and then I will once again take a look through whatever was on the in the neighborhood list from the other day and see, well, are any of these ready to be moved over to the focus list? Are any of them ready to get kicked off this list completely? And then I'll do the same thing for the focus list. Are any of them getting demoted to the in the neighborhood list, or are any of them getting kicked off because they either broke out or broke down? And so that's the process. It, it Having said all that, like it sounds like a lot, but that it generally it takes me maybe about half an hour to do all that. Um, Sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on market conditions. Market conditions that we have right now, significantly less. Well, with barely anything passing, and uh, the idea, yeah, well, like just to reiterate, the idea is not to be trading often, right? Like it's not, it's to be trading the best. It's to be trading the best opportunities that we're able to find, and when the quality isn't there, to just sit and wait. Right? We want our equity curve to be moving up. Right? The way that we help to get our equity curve to consistently move up is to not dig ourselves into a hole. And when the market is not giving us high quality merchandise, and when it's choppy, like how it's been, then one of the best moves is to step aside and just simply wait. And like, don't force trades. It's not worth it. Very good question, Colin. Thank you. Any other questions? Any other questions? We're at the half an hour mark. I'm happy to stay on for another moment or two if you do have questions. If not, we'll wrap things up. Take another sip while you are getting your questions in. Any other questions? Did that answer your question, Colin? I hope so. Pretty long answer if it didn't. uh, Here's Lee. Welcome back, Lee. Thoughts on Tesla, S&P, and Nvidia? All right, going for the 3P or the tripod or something here. All right, so Tesla. Let's bring up Tesla first. All right, and so looking at this, and let me get some more real estate for this over here. So I'm first thing that you notice I'm doing, I'm resetting each of the charts. I always do this, and I always start off with having all four, so monthly, the weekly, daily, and 30-minute time frames on my screen because I want to have that big perspective, and I also want to start from the same point of reference each time. All previous annotations are hidden, so that way I'm looking at this stuff with a fresh set of eyes. So yeah, the monthly time frame, like, yeah, it's obviously run for a long time. It's been consolidating for the past 4 months, right? So come over here to the weekly, right? So let's blow up the weekly a bit. First thing that I notice is that it tested the 40-week line so far successfully, and now it's stuck between potential resistance at the 10-week line, potential support at the 40-week line. So um, if I were in this long term, it's at a major support level, right? So the breakout, right? So let's turn on the annotations on. It looks like I deleted all my prior annotations. That's okay. We could add some more back. To me, the breakout was back here, right? Like you have the fresh the highs, the prior highs back here in January of 2021, and it made fresh highs over here in October. But I feel as though the truer breakout was down here when the move really started to bust above this level from April of 21. And if that's the case, you can see too, like how price rallied, came over, tested the prior highs, uh, attempted to rally, rolled over, and then it found support back here. So now it's just bouncing between those two. Technically, it's in a downtrend, right? A downtrend being a series of lower highs, lower lows. There's not really a pattern here to me that's actionable. Um, Yeah, well, like I was in Tesla somewhere back here when it started. Yeah, like was that June? Yeah, that's June. So I started what I was hoping to be a long-term position in Tesla back here, right? So the way that yeah, let me finish that thought, then I'll come back to that point. So started the position over here. Intention was to be long term. It ran, and then it ran so much that I didn't want to sit through a consolidation like this, where so buying it over here, seeing it move about 100%, and then watching that 100% gain turn into a 20% gain. That doesn't sit well with me. So I'm selling somewhere in this neighborhood over here. And now I've been out of Tesla for a while. Um, in order for me to take some kind of another trade in Tesla, I'd want to see it set up again in some kind of a pattern that I trade, be it like a cup of handle or a VCP, or there's about a dozen or so that I trade. Um, yeah, long term or for a swing, I needed to do something, but yeah, right now it's just consolidating. Um, yeah, S&P we spoke about a bit earlier. S&P is consolidating as well, caught between support and resistance too, right? Similar to Tesla in that regard, between the 50 and the 200. And Nvidia, yeah, you could see that Nvidia too just dropped to the 40-week line, found support, rallied so far, and it too is consolidating. Not quite a setup yet, not for me anyway. Um, Lee, are you still day trading? If you're day trading, you could probably find setups in this. Like the so it when I'm day trading it, and I seldom day trade, and it like at least for now, like I'm just busy with other things, coaching, writing a book. I'm on the. I started chapter 2 of the book today. So far, so good. Starting the chapters on chapters on psychology. Um, but for day trading, um, if you have like heavy duty volatility like we do now, it can be you can find a lot of opportunities in this. Just trade in the direction of the longer term trends. With this, right? Like you're kind of stuck right now between support and resistance. So I would see this here, and when the move started this morning, like coming down, you're like this, like even there, like on the 30-minute, like that's not a great short setup. Like it started to break down over here, and well, maybe if you're looking at it on a 5-minute time frame, nah, you're not seeing a ton on there either. A lot of stuff to sometimes is sitting and waiting. Like it's better to trade quality where you know that you have an edge versus trying to see something just to try to make something work. Uh, Bushan, your views on metal stocks. Do you have any in particular? Here's one, Nucor, moving sideways. Alcoa. Coa's trading near its highs. Looks like maybe it breaks out. Coa's kind of interesting. Something else too that I look for is where am I going to get into a trade? Where am I going to get out of a trade? That is true no matter what it is that I'm trading. So if I were to trade this like a breakout, right? Like so let's say that you're looking for new highs. Okay, great. So let's say that you're entering over here and your stop loss. Where would you place your stop loss? Well, maybe you're placing your stop loss at today's low, right? After all, you do have several moving averages bunched up right over here, including the 21 EMA. So if it does follow through, that seems like maybe it's a decent spot. I don't like the proximity to the 50 because it could slice through today's low retest the 50. Not loving this as a trade, but just for an example, um, I the next thing I would do too is see, well, what's the distance between my entry price and my stop? 10% is a lot. That means that just to get 2 to 1, right? Like don't even think about 3 to 1 yet, which is well what I like to shoot for. But for 2 to 1, this stock has to move 20%. Can it move 20%? Maybe, right? But you're talking about 4 times its daily range, its average daily range, right? So that's what this indicator down here it tells us that actually Stu Chalmers made this indicator and shared it with us. Lee knows Stu. Stu's fantastic. He's one of the coaches over at Mara. Made this indicator for the percent daily range, and yeah, well, like it makes it that much easier to know that, yeah, like so on average over the past 20 days, this has moved about 5.5% per day. Great. So in order to get to 20%, you're talking 4 times its daily range. Like, is that plausible? I wouldn't want to have to rely on that. Like it's doable, but do you want it to have to do that to make the profit that you want? Not for me. All right, last question, and then we're going to have to call it a wrap until next week. Lee wants to talk about DWAC, sees it as a swing trade. So let's take a look at DWAC. Move the drawings over here. DWAC. Okay, so I'll give you my 2 cents on this. Right, so I'm just again resetting all the charts, start from the same spot. A couple of things that I do like about the chart in general. So you see that line there, right? Let's zoom in a little bit on this. This line here, it's on all of them, that line. That's a relative strength line, how this is performing versus the S&P 500. It's up on across the board on all of them, right? So you look from the lower left to the upper right, and it's trending higher. That green line, that straight green line, and that shorter one there, it's showing the relative strength, how it's trending over the past 50 days and over the past 7 or 8 days, I think I have it set to. So it's showing you that, yes, it too has been outperforming the market, which, of course, like if we're trying to trade the leaders, and that's something that I do and recommend, part of what we look for. As far as the setup goes, I am not like I see that like this is consolidating. I'm not sure that I would necessarily call this a setup quite yet. Like there's some consolidation below this level here, right? So it started to tighten up a little bit. Not and yeah, like it seems like maybe there's some volatility contraction, some VCP action, but not sure I would call it a VCP quite yet. Um, it would be nice if this could tighten up for maybe another week below here, and then uh, try to get in. on a breakout above this level here. Part of the problem with this too is that the price action is so wide that even if we were to say like put the stop below today's low, on a breakout above this high over here, you're talking 17%, right? Like between your entry and your stop, like that's way too much. Way too much. That means that to get to 2R, two times your risk, you need a 36% move. No, no, that's too much, right? Like, can it happen? Sure, absolutely, but that's a lot to ask for a trade. I'd rather be able to make 2R on a 10% move than having to have a 36% move just to make 2R. Hope that makes sense. Yeah, and I'll do one more question. I saw Ben sneak in a question here at the end. Well, what's the smallest time frame you'll use when day trading? What's your favorite stock in the market right now? So you gave us a twofer as well. All right, Ben. So uh, the smallest time frame that I'll use when day trading is generally the 5 minute. Like I'll take a look at a 1 minute chart, but again, I'm not day trading that often. When I was, yeah, like I would go down like as far to the 1 minute, but my execution was generally 5 minute time frame. Favorite stock in the market right now, the one that I'm in. So I'm still in Bros, and I'll take off the annotation so it looks a little bit cleaner. I got in on, well, what is that? That's Tuesday. So got in on Tuesday, um, took profits off up here, and letting the rest of it ride. And that's what I'm doing so far. So far, it's consolidating well. Not loving a ton of stuff. Like it's really how the individual names behave. Um, I'm a fan of what's working. I have a set criteria for what I look for, fundamentally, technically, and just it's just a matter of running the system over and over and over again, and that's it. Uh, Let's see. Well, what else? Well, what else? Yeah, yeah. Lee says too. Yeah, Stu's ridiculous. Stu's pretty amazing. He's an amazing trader. Interestingly enough, well, we both had the same return last year, around 75%. Um, but I've learned so much from Stu. Hopefully, he's learned a bit from me as well. But that's kind of what the elite program is about. Iron sharpens iron, right? And so like I know that I don't know everything. Like he knows that he doesn't know everything either, and so that's why it's a collaborative spot, right? Like well, we're all learning, growing together, and nobody knows everything, but we're able to charge forward together. Let's see. The You know what? Like I'm just a sucker to stay on here and talk forever. I'm gonna have to go pretty soon though. Now you guys are warmed up. Now all the questions are flying in. Alberto, time to short QQQ. I don't think so. Let's see if it's changed. Oh well, you know what? Maybe. It might be, yeah, it started to shift, like, it even shifted from when we started the live stream. Let's take a look at the indices. Yeah, the indices are getting a bit worse. Um, huh. So if I were to short the Qs, I would be looking at, uh I'd be looking at the Nasdaq as well and using the 21 EMA as my guardrail. So if I'm shorting the Qs and if I'm getting in now, like that, the thing with shorting for me as well is that I don't like shorting like every so often you'll get a good breakdown for that makes a good short. But well, what often makes a better short is shorting a rally. So yesterday, right, like so many of the indices, so much of everything was running into major levels of resistance. Getting short yesterday would have been a good idea. Now the price has fallen, right? So maybe you could have gotten in a bit earlier in the day, right? Like even near the open at one point, like price was rallying, you could have gotten in earlier. Now, if you start a short here, then you have a 4% range, right? The between where price is now to the 21. Um, if you're looking for a retest of lows, like it's basically giving you a 1-to-1 reward to risk. Not fantastic. It could work, but if you're looking for more than that, you're basically saying that the market's going to collapse and you're trying to bet in that direction. Like I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure about that. Um, yeah, Yeah, I like the obvious trade where everything's stacked in my favor versus taking trades where it's kind of sorta, but there's also good reasons for it to move the opposite way. Like those kind of trades, like it could work, but it tends to lead to more activity with the same net result. Um, and I would not go long SQQQ. Um, yeah, part of the reason why too, like it's just not. It's not a setup that I would trade. Like I think that a beautiful setup was back here. Like if you were looking at this as an inverse and starting when it started to break out here on January 18th, and you're looking at the cues, and here are the cues on January 18th, starting to roll over here. Like I think that was a great time to start to think about going shorter or buying the cues like here, and then the following day on the 20th when it broke below and closed below the 200. Right now, it could work, but it's not really a pattern. At least not one that I trade. So I wouldn't go along there. All right. So got a lot of questions. The questions came in at the end, but all good. I appreciate you. I appreciate them. I appreciate you guys. If you want more, check out the Mara Elite program where it's open. People seem to love it. Lee was giving us some great kudos before. Colin was here asking some great questions. Check out the program. Um, Other than that, I'll see you guys next week. More live trading, more stock market analysis. We'll see what kind of interviews we can get for next week. Until then, take care. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody. Take care. Much love. Peace out.
Hey, thanks so much for sticking around to the end. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button down below and become a part of the Mara Wealth community. And make sure that you check out some of the other videos on the channel. They're exactly what you need to see. And leave a comment down below. I read all of them. Leave a comment.